David, a young adult Nigerian, Gen Z, sprawled on his king-size bed, scrolling through TikTok on his new iPhone 16 Pro Max. His room in his father's mansion showed off his wealth, from the gaming setup to the designer clothes thrown across chairs. Life was perfect. He double-tapped videos of other rich kids showing off their cars and party lifestyles. His eyes widened as he saw a friend's post about a weekend trip to Dubai. "I haven't been out of the country in 3 months," David muttered. Time for another trip. As he was about to text his friends about a weekend getaway, a knock came at his door. "Mr. David, good morning," said John, the house help. David barely looked up from his phone. "What?" "Your breakfast is ready, sir." David yawned. "Bring it here." John brought in a tray with fresh juice, toast, and eggs. David tasted the juice and made a face. "What is this?" "The juice isn't cold enough. Take it back and make it properly chilled." John nodded quickly. "Sorry, sir. Right away." As John hurried out, David went back to his phone. "The staff is getting worse. Dad needs to hire better people." His father, Senator Mark Ayotunde, was a prominent politician who made his fortune in oil and government contracts. He had tried to guide his son into responsible adulthood, but had so far failed. David only cared about parties, clothes, and showing off online. That evening, Senator Tunde came home to find shopping bags all over the living room. David was lounging on the sofa, laughing at something on his phone. "David," the senator called. David glanced up. "Hey, Dad." The senator gestured at the bags. "What's all this?" "Just some new stuff. My stylist said I needed new things for the club this weekend." The senator shook his head. "Do you know how much you've spent this month?" David shrugged. "Does it matter? You're a senator." "That's not the point," his father said firmly. "You've spent over 5 million naira in just 1 week." "So?" David rolled his eyes. "Don't you ever think about saving money? Or starting a business? Doing something with your life?" David laughed. "Dad, that's why you're rich. You work, I enjoy. Simple." The senator stared at his son in disappointment. "I've tried to help you start businesses. I offered to set you up with a car dealership, a clothing line, even a restaurant." "Dad, please. I'm not trying to work 9-5 like some regular person." The senator rubbed his forehead. "David, money doesn't grow on trees. What if something happens to me?" "God forbid," David said. "Nothing will happen to the great Senator Tunde." The senator looked at his son with sadness. For the first time, he truly regretted how he had raised him. "All right," he said quietly. "All right, what?" David asked. "I just hope you don't regret this attitude someday." With that, he walked away. David didn't care. His father always talked about responsibility, but still gave him money. His life would stay perfect. Little did he know how quickly things would change. A few days later, David woke up at noon as usual. The smell of jollof rice came from the kitchen, but he was in no rush to eat. John knocked on his door. "Mr. David, your lunch is ready." "I'll eat later," David mumbled. John hesitated. "Sir, there's something else. Your father. There's been a car accident." David sat up straight. "What are you saying?" The senator was in a car crash on his way to Abuja. His car, David's phone rang. An unknown number. He answered. "Hello?" "Good day, sir. This is from National Hospital Abuja. We regret to inform you that your father, Senator Mark Ayotunde, was involved in a fatal accident. His body is in our morgue." David dropped the phone. His heart raced. "No, this couldn't be happening," he screamed. Soon the house filled with people, relatives, politicians, family friends, all coming to pay respects. David sat in shock, unable to process what had happened. For 2 days, he barely ate or slept. On the 3rd day, reality hit when his phone rang again. "Mr. David, this is National Hospital Abuja. We need you to settle your father's hospital and morgue bills before funeral arrangements can begin." "Bills?" David repeated. "Yes, sir. The total comes to 2.8 million naira. David's throat tightened. He had money in his account, but it was what he was saving for a new designer watch. But he had no choice. A week after his father's death, the household staff approached him. The cook, driver, gardener, and John all stood nervously in front of him. John spoke first. "Sir, we need our salaries." "Didn't my father pay you?" David asked. "No, sir. The senator said he would pay us when he returned from Abuja." David was shocked. He had never thought about staff salaries before. "Just give me some time, I'll sort it out." He needed money fast. He checked his father's safe but found nothing. All his cards were gone too. The next day, David went to the bank, dressed in his best clothes to hide his worries. He met with the bank manager. "My condolences, Mr. Tunde," the manager said. "Thank you. I need access to my father's accounts." The manager looked uncomfortable. "I'm afraid that's not possible. Your father took several large loans from us. His accounts are frozen until the debts are settled." Loans? David couldn't believe it. My father was a senator. He was rich. "I'm sorry, sir. That's the situation." David left the bank in a daze. He called his uncle. "Uncle, Dad is gone, and now the bank says he had loans. We might be broke." His uncle sighed. "These politicians. The flashy life isn't always what it seems. Your father spent more than he earned." I warned him. Days later, representatives from another bank came to the house. "Mr. Tunda, according to this agreement, your father used this property as collateral for his loan. Since the debt remains unpaid, we're taking possession of the house. You have 24 hours to vacate." David stared at them. The mansion, his home, was being taken away. Before he could process it, he fainted. When he woke up, the staff were standing around him, looking worried. "Sir, the bankers are gone, but we need to leave by tomorrow," John said. David felt lost. "What am I going to do?" The driver spoke up. "Sir, we all need to find new jobs. We can't stay." One by one, the staff packed their things and left. By nightfall, David was alone in the big empty house. He called some friends, hoping someone would help. But everyone was suddenly busy. The same people who had partied with him, who had enjoyed his father's money, were nowhere to be found. The next morning, David packed his clothes and electronics. He called a taxi and went to his friend Chidi's apartment. Chidi was surprised to see David with luggage. "Bro, what's happening?" David broke down. "Chidi, everything is gone. Dad died. The banks took the house, and I have nowhere to go." Chidi let him in. "You can stay here for a while, but my place is small." David had never stayed in such a small apartment before. That night, sleeping on Chidi's couch, reality hit him hard. He wasn't Senator Tunde's privileged son anymore. He was just another young man, with no money and no skills. The next morning, Chidi woke David up early. "Bro, I have to clean the house before work. Can you help?" David frowned. "Clean? I've never cleaned before." Chidi laughed. "Well, you're about to learn. Here's a broom." David struggled with the simplest chores. By the time he finished sweeping, he was exhausted. "Man, this is hard work," he complained. "Welcome to real life," Chidi said. "And by the way, rent is due next week. If you're staying, you need to chip in." David's eyes widened. "But I don't have money." "Then get a job." That evening, over a simple meal of Indomie noodles, David felt lost. "I don't know what to do, Chidi. I've never worked before." Chidi pointed to David's designer clothes and expensive watch. "Sell those. At least it'll buy you some time." David was horrified. "Sell my things? Unless you want to sleep on the streets." Looking at his situation, David realized he had no choice. The next day, he sold his designer clothes, watch, and even his iPhone, downgrading to a basic smartphone. The money wasn't much compared to what he used to spend, but it was a start. He began looking for jobs, but with no experience and no degree, options were limited. Finally, Chidi helped him get a job at a phone accessory shop in the mall. On his first day, David was terrified. He had to serve customers, arrange stock, and handle money. The shop owner was strict, and the pay was small, but it was something. Slowly, over 2 months, David adjusted. He learned to budget, save money, and work hard. He contributed to rent and food at Chidi's place. He even saved enough to help with his father's funeral arrangements, On the day of the funeral, a small crowd gathered at the cemetery. As they prepared for the burial, a commotion broke out at the back of the group. David turned around and froze. It was his father, walking toward them, very much alive. David fainted on the spot. When he came to, his father was standing over him. David screamed, "Get away from me! You're dead!" Senator Tunde held his son's shoulders. "David, calm down. I'm not dead." The crowd murmured in shock and confusion. "This has to be a dream," David said. His father shook his head. "No, son. Let me explain." "Explain right here," David shouted, "in front of everyone." Senator Tunde took a deep breath. "I faked my death." "You what?" David couldn't believe his ears. "I had to teach you a lesson," his father continued. "For years I tried to make you understand responsibility. I tried to prepare you for real life, but you wouldn't listen." David trembled with anger. "So you disappeared and let me think you were dead. Do you know what I've been through?" Senator Tunde nodded slowly. "I know exactly what you've been through. I've been watching you." "Watching me? You saw me lose everything? You saw me homeless, working a minimum wage job?" "Yes," his father said, "and I've seen how much you've grown. If I had told you it was a test, would you have changed?" David wanted to scream and punch his father, but deep down, he knew the answer. He wouldn't have changed. He needed that harsh wake-up call. His father reached for his hand. "David, I didn't do this to hurt you. I did it to make you stronger. And look at you now, working, saving money, living responsibly." Tears ran down David's face. He had thought he couldn't survive without his father's money, without luxury. But he had survived. He had become stronger. "Dad, I don't know if I can forgive you for this," David said. Senator Tunde nodded. "Take your time, but know that I did it because I love you." David looked at his father with mixed emotions. "I love you too." The crowd around them whispered in amazement. A month later, Senator Tunde helped David start a tech company. This time, David didn't waste the opportunity. He worked hard, managed the finances carefully, and built something meaningful. He had learned that money without responsibility was meaningless. He was no longer just a senator's son who spent money. He was a young businessman who earned it.